す女王の城の中ではやがて生まれくる新たな王に先駆けて彼に直属する3戦士のうちの一人がついに
That explains the title.
迎えようとしていた。
Ooh. Oh, yes. Beautiful backgrounds, of course. There's that shot again. They've reused it a few times now. Interesting. Ah. Oh, yes. From above, right? They've got that, right? They can fly? Interesting though, right? Once again, Gon and Killua could not see that coming or notice them. Wow. Yeah. But why? Oh. Hagia-sama. Hagia-sama. Look at this. She's blunt. Pretty lame. I mean, that right there could be... that could be interesting for the arc as a whole. Oh my god, they've got a chef. That explains the big meatballs. Man, Pokel's better off dead, for sure at this point. But before the king, there is the king's guards. And one is imminent. I mean, Pokel is a hunter. He might have... Right. That too? That too? That eyebrow raise. Yeah. Yeah. Of course he didn't forget. Oh my god, Pokel. He almost kind of looks like Mello from Death Note. Long story, my guy. Look at that chest puffed out. Proud. Yeah, he doesn't see it. Oh boy. Careful. Oh. Keep that to yourself. Whoa. Right on cue almost. Oh, he feels that surge. Yeah. That's quite the bloodlust or malice, right? That's the term they used in Heaven's Arena. Oh god, oh! The scythe again? Death. Oh, I love those silhouette shots. Out of the smoke. He did use it again. Or he rolled number 2 again. Oh, okay, now he truly knows. He feels it. Oh. It's got a sting, but... Oh. To walk away from that. That's right. He knew better. Ah, that really stings, doesn't it? Oh. From a past life. Bit of a reality check here for him. Oh, death. This is interesting right here. A second chance, right? Oh. Yeah, that, of course, but I'm thinking about the King's Guard that just showed up. Oh god. Yes. Oh. Wow. Whoa, is it possible that Kite actually felt this in the last episode? Kitty. Yeah. Really quite petite. Ramo's shook. Oh no, you're a dead man. Ramo's dead. She picked up on all of it. Whoa. Oh, that's a great design. Yeah. Did she pick up on his thoughts? Oh my god. Yeah. But that's insane. Yeah, look at the feet. Yeah. It's a bit of a theme, isn't it? Look at this. Like the pinnacle above his station. Ah, look at that. Just like that shot of Gyro and the foot on his head. Pushing him down. Know your place. The pecking order. Yeah, even though voice is cute. Of course it is. Wow. This is a different... Is that like a stock? Or is that actually the silhouette of the king? Look at this. He fell right in line. That's frightening. Well, let's save that. So this Zetsu's really, really solid right now. Yeah, malice, right? Bloodlust. I learned all about it early days. Yeah, that's not that shocking. You would think someone like her should be able to pick up on it, right? All you really need to look at is Ramot's reaction and the sudden change in his demeanor. He's been tamed. Just like that. Poko, like I said, you're better off dead. I love those shots of them just going right in on the camera. Of course. That's so cute. Yeah. And the other one is this. Yeah. Oh god, that's so cute. Oh my god, his voice. She's probing him. Conjurer, okay, official confirmation. Look at this. Oh god, she is. She's literally picking at his brain. It's not really a lobotomy, but... Holy fuck. Oh my god, the sound design. I like her. But hey, there's actually really an easy test for that. They're not actually. Oh. Oh, they're actually gonna do it. Okay. My god, Ramot's reaction to her arrival is just. Ah, so just like Gon. Enhancer.
つまりラモットは紛れもなく念能力者ということですか。確か君はレアモノと戦ったって言ってたよね。
Two of them. And those two need to get out of here. Yeah, she picked up quite a bit from Pokel there. I got a silhouette of the king. And that silhouette kind of looked like Cell. Chain reaction. Oh my god. Two questions. Nen, and if she has Nen, then the type of Nen. Oh my god, she has Nen. I mean, yeah, that was... Yeah. Yeah. Specialist. Yeah, I was thinking, it's not a transmuter. Neferpitou. Okay. Okay. Oh god, the bubbly nature and, you know, the feline curiosity. But, wow. Neferpitou. Pito. I mean, yeah, that's a given. Wow. They've got to turn around. No. I mean, this is certainly Kite's match. It could be more than Kite's match, so Gon and Killua are out of their depth at this point. Yeah, so if it wasn't already clear that Kite, Gon, and Killua are heading for trouble, you know, the narrator makes it crystal clear. The arrival of the first King's Guard is about to spell a lot of trouble for these three. I mean, you can easily kind of get that from the episode itself and just the trajectory of the past few episodes, right? It's been building and building, right? The tension's been building and building, and it has to crescendo at some point, for better or for worse, right? And it appears it is imminent, right? Because listen, how long? How long can it truly go on for? Rather, how long before they do run into Neferpitou? How about that for a name? That right there is a fitting name, a worthy name, much like how the introduction is so worthy of, you know, a character that's meant to be at that tier, that ilk of character, right? The Royal Guard. And this is just one of them. Just one. And it just the presence, just the arrival, quite the interesting arrival as well. You know, there's certainly room for speculation there, but just the arrival of one Royal Guard is, I don't know, it just immediately changes the landscape of just, I don't know, the whole arc and, you know, the near future for these characters, Gon, Kite, Killua, and the connotations of it, right? Because, you know, beyond it being the arrival of Neferpitou, the first Royal Guard, and, you know, before I forget it, the name itself, you know, again, really quite unique, really quite fitting. You know, Nefer, the Nefer part of the name, you know, and again, it being a cat, right? Listen, sooner or later, there was going to be a cat-like character, right? A cat girl. And yeah, she's here now. She's here now. That's for damn sure. yeah, the Nefer part of that, maybe there could be something Egyptian of origin in that name, right? Again, given that it is a cat, or maybe it's not at all, but for anyone who might have further I don't know, insight on this, possible insight on this, do let me know in the comments. And if indeed that is the case, and there is some thought that goes into these names, looking at it from the queen's perspective, how exactly has she arrived at that name, and how exactly is she going to arrive at the next two names, right? And how about the king's name, right? Is he just going to be the king, right? Or much like everyone else, he is going to have a name. I'm kind of leaning towards that possibility, that he is going to have a name as well. Hell, it looks like I actually got a glimpse of the king, a silhouette, but it's a bit more than the silhouette, right? A silhouette is more so, or the ones I got earlier in the anime are the ones of the Zoldyck clan, the Examiners, or the Hunter Association, and of course the the Phantom Troop, right? Those are like full on, just kind of like teaser type silhouettes, because it's just black, all black, right? It's solid black. But this, it had a bit of detail on it, right? You can see the detail. Like I saw the tail, I saw a bit of detail on the tail. I saw a really distinct figure. Now, you saw that immediately. I thought, okay, maybe it's almost kind of like, presenting a stock image of a kingly figure, perhaps. But that looked really quite unique, if I'm being honest. The head shape really stuck out to me. The shoulders stuck out to me. The tail stuck out to me. Hell, like I said, it really resembled Cell, didn't it? But a lot of it actually felt like some of Cell's forms before Perfect Cell. Now, that being said, I am making the choice to not go back to that image and, really kind of like zoom in, zoom and enhance all of that and really kind of look at it, because, the king is going to arrive, soon enough. And, even this little, I don't know, teaser, I feel like I should still kind of just take it as is, right? It was a quick teaser. Listen, I'll be honest, I would have preferred nothing at all. Or maybe more of like a silhouette that's in line with some of the older ones I got. Again, Zoldyck Clan, Phantom Troop, the Hunter Association silhouettes. But yeah, I got it nonetheless. And I think that's enough, right? I don't need to actually go into it and zoom in and all of that. I'll get a look. I'll get a proper look at the king soon enough, hopefully. Now, but by soon enough, I mean, I don't mean that, in the next, 4 or 5 episodes, I need the king. I mean, the first royal guard just showed up, right? And I'm not really expecting the other two to show up almost immediately. I like that it's just one of them right now. And like I said, just that arrival, that presence, that distinct presence just changed the landscape, right? Of the arc itself, and just in terms of, structure, or kind of reassembling a semblance of that structure, right? You see through Rameau. You see through Rameau that he falls in line. And of course, I'll get into that because, it's not just Rameau. There's a lot of interesting, interesting things at play here. You look at Haiga-sama, right? The lion Chimera ant. There's a really interesting moment for him as well, right? And it's a reality check for many of them. For Haiga-sama, hopefully I'm saying that correctly. I think it's close enough. And of course for Rameau, right? It's a reality check of all reality checks for Rameau, right? And you see that by the end of it, he's back in line. He's back, being a part of a collective, back in that blissful, I don't know, hierarchy. I was born into this, and that's enough for me, right? Not too long ago, it wasn't enough. Not too long ago, he was quite outspoken, really quite aggressive, really quite, I don't know, it's a simple term I'm looking for, but it's kind of escaping me at the moment. Rebellious, right? And, that's one of the main reasons I really kind of liked Rameau, right? Yes, I know his attitude can be really quite off-putting, his aggression. This is aggression on a different level that I've seen over the span of his little mini arc, right? But you see the arrival of Neferpitou, it just drives all of that aggression out of him, right? It's actually kind of I mean, not kind of fascinating. It is fascinating, but it's also frightening that just her presence, her arrival, her being born, just that moment. Yeah, that was enough to bring someone like Rameau back into line, right? Know his place, know his role in the grand scheme of things. Those ambitious ideas and notions, delusions of grandeur, right? So much above his station. For a moment in time, Rameau allowed himself to legitimately believe that he actually could be king. He could ascend to that, right? That, right now, I'm unique. I've been given this talent, or, the confirmation that, Nen is something special, right? And, him being one of the first users of Nen, right? I mean, he is the first user of Nen, essentially, in these hybrid Chimera ants. Now, that kind of gets me thinking about the queen herself. But yeah, at least openly, this is certainly, Rameau. He's a bit of a pioneer in that sense, isn't he? And at the end of the day, I still like that he's still a part of this. Listen, I know people might be a little bit confused still as to how come I'm so not, attached to the character per se, but more so, intrigued by his trajectory. And again, that stems from those notions, right? Those delusions, those, ambitions of his. And that is something that is interesting to me, right? And that's been a thing that's kind of been quite common as well. Just different ideas, right? Individual ideas. I've seen a lot of really unique Chimera ants at this point. You look at Yunjun. Yunjun certainly had these grand ambitions of being king, right? And he was super open about it as well. I mean, he was open about it to his sidekicks, his lackeys, I suppose. And then you've also got the actual former king of the jungle as well, in Haiga-sama, right? And his awakening. And then, of course, on the horizon is the actual king. So yeah, there's a lot of interesting stuff at play here. How, a lot of these characters kind of navigate the idea, the ambitious nature of king, right? Destined to be a king, not destined to be a king, but aspiring to be one, right? And then, of course, kind of having it in your nature to be king as well. Of a certain, food chain, I suppose, a certain hierarchy as far as, again, the king of the jungle, the lion goes. And it's interesting that Haiga-sama's memories are actually of the time of him being a lion rather than human, right? The human aspect or the human side of it is actually at play now. It's the side that actually allowed him to kind of, take a step back, right? Yes, it stung. You can see it in the animation, the way it's drawn, the facial features, but he is able to reel in his pride, right? To live to fight another day, right? To learn from this. And I really liked how there's two different approaches to this as well, right? Knowing your place or knowing that you are really quite outclassed, right? You've got Rameau and the arrival of Neferpitou, right? And then, of course, you've got Haiga-sama and Kai. On both ends, there's no need to initiate physical encounter, even if you might be a little bit outclassed. They know enough, they understand enough, they have enough intelligence at this point. They know it's better off to just kind of step back and at this point kind of know your place, right? Or understand your situation. Again, for Rameau, it's all about just kind of giving up all of these ambitious and ludicrous ideas, right? That might have seemed really quite, quite exciting to him. But now, it's a distant memory almost immediately. Now he just serves this new king's guard and the queen and the king after the queen. But that point about Haiga-sama actually remembering his memories from his days as the king of the jungle, the lion, it's interesting because, I kind of just assumed that, the battle-toad Chimera ant in the last episode who gets decapitated, I just kind of assumed that's just the human side of him, the human that actually got chomped on by the queen. It's possible it could have been just the frog or the toad, but, I don't know. I just, the fact that I immediately assumed that it must have been the human side, I guess that means something. But again, it's entirely possible that it could have been one of those earlier catches for the queen, right? the first few times I actually get to see the queen, she's just kind of feasting on anything, crabs, and she catches a bat in her second appearance. But also it appears that the NGL is just full of life, all kinds of life, right? And life that might be maybe not in the right area even. I mean, you've got, cheetahs and lions and all of that just roaming in the NGL, right? I mean, they did kind of hint at the NGL being bit of, I don't know, bit of a unique case. Pokel actually, even talks about really unique and uncharted creatures that might be around. But, these are really common animals. But yeah, even that aspect of it is a little bit interesting. The range of animals that they've come across on NGL, or in the NGL rather. Because as of this point, I know that they haven't drifted outside of the NGL. Right? So they didn't go out there and bring animals in from some of the neighboring countries. Because, yeah, they showed me there's a lot of desert area as well, close by to the NGL. But yeah, going back to my point about the name itself, Neferpitou, and the queen giving her that name, yeah, there might be some thought behind it. Right. And again, that always kind of goes back to the origins of this specific queen. And, there's actually quite a bit that's given to me in the last episode. And, it allowed for some speculation in terms of just the existence of this humanoid queen in the first place, and how the hell it showed up here in the first place. And, how the hell out of all the places it just kind of landed in the NGL as well. Right. Almost as if, it's being guided by this invisible hand even. And the fact that they're just now beginning to find out about these new types of hybrid chimera ants, right? These humanoid chimera ants, that just means that the queen simply has to come from something of an unknown place, at least to the people, at least to these really accomplished hunters of the story. Someone like Kite is really, really quite accomplished in his field, right? And I mean, out of all of them, he's always been the one that's always had this fear, and he's always had it in the back of his mind, that this is the worst thing that could possibly happen with the chimera ants. And it's happening in front of him. And, his match is here now. It's as simple as that. I even said that it might be beyond his match, possibly. Listen, the one thing, the one thing that is so clear, and it's actually really quite impressive as well, the introduction of Neferpitou, right, beyond being just really quite the fitting and worthy introduction, really kind of lives up to the hype itself, the build-up. It really kind of lives up to the moniker of Royal Guard, right? And it really, really, I think most importantly, establishes that jump. Right? This is a different beast altogether. It truly is. And, I think one of the most impressive things about this episode is that it does kind of put you right in there, through Ramlet's reactions, his really distinct reactions, and again, Peggy's reactions as well, and just how it's presented visually as well. I mean, the storyboarding is just phenomenal, isn't it? I mean, honestly, Neferpitou's introduction, and then, some of the things that followed, it's some of the best of the anime, right? It's one of the best introductions of the anime for a character, right? And this is a big character. Listen, I took to this character almost immediately. You see that I'm out here giggling and cackling at the, the really cute and playful and goofy nature of, some of the mannerisms, right? But again, the thing that's so impressive is that it keeps you on your toes. At no point did I feel, at ease or comfortable, because I know, I can just tell, you can just feel it, you can just see it, right? And again, it's a combination of a lot of filmmaking techniques that come together to establish that really distinct feeling, right? That aura, that presence, that screen presence. And once again, the voice acting does play a part, right? But yeah, just the nature of this guard, Neferpitou, you just know, this is it. They've met their match, and there's a really strong possibility it's beyond their match. And I should say Kite's match, because I know Gon and Killua are not ready for this. They're simply not, right? That's why, immediately, right as the episode's ending, and the narrator's really hinting at that encounter, that imminent encounter, they need to turn around. Listen, if Gon and Killua fight Neferpitou, they're dead. I'm so sure of that. I just feel so sure of that at this point. And you see in Killua that the doubts have been creeping in. This isn't the first time, he's felt a little bit frustrated and a little bit out in the open, like a sitting duck almost, out of his depth. Killua legitimately is beginning to feel like he is out of his depth, or they're out of their depth. And by that, I mean him and Gon, right? He doesn't like it. He does not like it one bit. It's a new feeling for him. It's a unique feeling for him because for the longest time, Killua has been really quite not at ease, but really quite comfortable with his surroundings, right? Yes, up until this point, they've been through a lot of tricky situations, rough patches, tough patches. But us as an audience has always felt that, okay, or maybe I should speak for myself. I've always felt that they'll come out of it. Right? They'll come out of it in one piece. They'll be fine at the end of the day, even if it is quite a sticky and tricky situation they might have landed themselves in. I think about, them being captured by the Phantom Troop. I think about them being in, some really tricky situations in other arcs, right? Some of the fights in Heaven's Arena. I mean, you look at all of those situations and you look at this. This is just, I don't know, man. This is a whole new different thing that they're a part of at this point, right? Much like Pokel realized episodes ago that this is out of his league, he's out of his depth. Killua, I think, is now realizing that. How insane is that? Killua is realizing that. So, imagine Pokel. I mean, poor Pokel, man. The imagery that I saw in this episode, some of it is the type of imagery that you always kind of associate with a story. I've seen some incredible highs, some devastating moments, some beautiful moments, emotional moments, bizarre, disturbing moments. But this right here, I'm always going to remember this. And as many of you know by now, and as I've established, that I'm not the type that gets caught off guard by, bizarre or disturbing, imagery or moments, because I've just seen so much. I've seen all kinds of crazy shit. But yeah, seeing specific characters, certain characters in these types of really horrifying situations, it's an experience, isn't it? Right? It's a haunting experience. Now, listen, I'll be honest, I can't claim to be attached to Pokel in the same manner that I might be attached to, someone like Gon and Killua and, a lot of the principal cast. Again, that includes people like Leorio, Kurapika, and hell, Kite as well at this point. Like I said a few episodes ago, I've really taken to Kite. I really like Kite. And, the fact that Togashi is able to make you like a character in such a short amount of time, in such a short span, yeah, it's yet another, notch for the death flag component of this, isn't it? And yeah, kind of going back to my point about Killua beginning to feel really quite out of depth. Listen, man, how long before Neferpitou comes after them, right? How long before they get too close? And they're getting dangerously close to the nest as well, right? They're going to follow Haiga-sama and his sidekicks back to the nest, right? How long? How long before Neferpitou comes after them? How long before Neferpitou picks up on them, right? 1 episode, 2 episodes max, right? That's I don't know, man. The thought of that is really, really making me uneasy. It kind of gave me a little bit of anxiety all of a sudden, right? That character that's kind of exuding such a distinct presence, throughout this episode, is potentially about to come across Gon, Killua, and Kite imminently. I mean, the narrators essentially all but confirmed it as well, right at the end there. And ultimately, I don't think that was really needed, right? But, it's there nonetheless. Listen, many of you have been around for a long time now, but, there might be a lot of newcomers as well. But, if you are the type that only wants to hear positives and you only want to see someone kind of experience an anime, in this case, Hunter x Hunter, just in the same light as you did, right? Just positives to say, just, having a blast, and, there's nothing to criticize, then, you've come to the wrong place. I'll be honest about that. Because at the end of the day, in addition to it being a first-time reaction, it's also meant to be a deep dive. It's meant to be an analysis, right? I am reviewing it. And yes, that usually includes criticism as well, right? You're not going to like everything about everything. Nothing's perfect. And yeah, I've always taken pride in my approach. I've always considered it a hybrid. But yeah, let's get back to the episode. And, at one point I kind of posed the question, why exactly are Gon and Killua not picking up on these ants and stuff, because, listen, they've gone through quite a bit of training. They've learned quite a bit. So, I just kind of felt that, okay, maybe if they're close enough, they should be able to pick up on their, just their presence and all of that. But, I think this had more to do with the fact that it's more about the end, the radius of Kite's end, right? It was maybe a bit too far out for someone like Gon and Killua, right? Because again, they are flying, but again, not far enough for someone like Kite to pick up on. But again, that does kind of tell Killua that, okay, they might have been sitting ducks if it wasn't for Kite in this really specific situation and his really specific capabilities, right? Or abilities. But again, you kind of go back to them not being able to pick up Ramote's Zetsu either. So that's insane still to kind of think about. But yeah, let's kind of backtrack a bit and go back to my point about Poco and just the disturbing nature of the things that happened to him. Just, my God, just being degraded in that manner, to be used, abused and controlled in that capacity, right? And then discarded. That, my God, unfortunately, it's a bit opposite to Ponzu's death, right? Ponzu was able to kind of get that message out to someone like Kite. And yeah, that kind of put into motion a lot of things. And, again, by now at this point, the Hunter Association knows about it as well because of that. That was a catalyst, her getting that message out. But unfortunately for Poco, him staying alive gave the new commander, right? The new Royal Guard member, the fundamentals of Nen, right? The principles of Nen, as he's being physically probed, lobotomized almost, and just kind of used as this husk to kind of extract information out of, right? And she gets a lot of information out of him. Again, like I said, all the fundamentals. He's just reciting it, right? Like a robot, being controlled and being used. It's just a thought of that is quite a frightening one, isn't it? To lose autonomy of yourself in that capacity. My goodness, that's just, yeah, it's just a terrifying thought, right? But again, some of the imagery that's kind of depicted here, oh my God, right? Her using those antennas to probe the different parts of his brain, and just getting that information out of him. He's still there. He's still alive at that point, right? Because he's speaking, right? Yes, it's quite robotic in its delivery. It's you see that all of the humanity is almost kind of gone, but it's almost academic in a sense, right? It's a scientific approach. It's a bit morbid, but if you look at it from their perspective, from Neferpitou's perspective, it's extracting information, right? It's a scientific approach. And listen, at the end of the day, this is not something Neferpitou or the Chimera ants kind of thought of. This is something that existed. This is something that came from the human side of things, right? She read it in a book as well. And, it makes a lot of sense that she hits the books almost immediately. The first day on the job is perhaps one of the most successful first days that you could possibly think of, right? The things that are established. It's an absolute, her arrival is an absolute game changer, right? The things she is able to already put into motion. Hell, by the end of it, you've already got that, potential, that chain reaction I kept speaking of. Now it's going to be put into motion, right? As like a common practice from the sounds of it. And, she doesn't need to get hit because she's born with Nen, right? Now, I am thinking about how exactly, the King's Guards and, in this case, Neferpitou are so much more different than the, some of the other Chimera ants, people like Haiga-sama or Colt, people of that, capacity. There's certainly a distinct jump just because they are, King's Guards, right? So, there's something else that's kind of going into it as well. Of course, at the most foundational level, the nutrition element of it, they must have had some of these hunters that are, a part of this expedition. I think 10 teams was the thing that was specified, right? Some of them must have been Nen users, Nen practitioners. There must have been enough of them that the queen is consumed that, you get this. You get someone like Neferpitou who's born with Nen. So, that kind of almost immediately confirms that, of course, the other two are also going to have Nen, and so is the king. And the thing is, it's clearly not just Nen. It's not as simple as just being born with Nen. It's established Nen. You see that Neferpitou is just brimming with, this aura, a really distinct aura, right? And the capacity to, utilize her Nen. My God, her specific Hatsu, I'm sure that's going to be something special as well. And then, of course, beyond her, the other two royal guards, and then the king himself. But you see that the moment she's born, it immediately lands on Ramote's radar. I mean, you see that some of the imagery is really quite unmissable, right? You see the skull, you see her eyes kind of dissolve into that skull that's kind of behind Ramote in one of those frames, right? And that skull's got hair, though. Interesting. It's an interesting image, isn't it? It's like long black hair. But yeah, earlier on in the anime, I've seen examples of that bloodlust, that malicious intent, that malice, right? Be it in a controlled setting, be it out in the open, be it that really unique standout moment earlier in the Hunter exam, Hisoka releasing some of his bloodlust because he simply had to release at that point, and Gon feeling that bloodlust really early on. And then, of course, in the Heaven's Arena arc, you have Master Wing, and you have Hisoka once again, putting out controlled malice, malicious intent to keep Gon and Killua out of that section, right? So I've seen examples of this, but this feels like it is on a different level. And, calling it malicious intent doesn't even feel right, because this is just Neferpitou's nature. This is how she's born, right? It's like a constant that's attached to her. This is just who she is. This is just a presence that she exudes. But yeah, at one point I was certainly quite concerned for Ramote, right? Or even beyond that, I felt that, yeah, he's a goner. Because for a few moments at least, I thought that she actually picked up on his internal thoughts. And that, for a few moments, that was a frightening thought as well, right? I was so sure that, okay, this is it. She's going to come onto the scene and almost immediately execute someone like Ramote, just for the intentions in his mind that he didn't even voice to anyone, but they got picked up on anyways. But yeah, luckily for Ramote, that wasn't the case here, right? It's just that she mentioned talent, and right before it kind of switches or transitions to Ramote's internal monologue, he does mention talent out loud as well, right? So she picked up on that, and she actually picked up on that before she's officially born as well, right? And I kind of alluded to the timing of it. Part of me kind of felt that, okay, his internal monologue or his internal thoughts, those specific thoughts about, wanting to be the king and kind of going against, the whole hierarchy of it, that was another reason that kind of made me think, okay, she actually picked up on his internal thoughts, and that kind of maybe expedited her birth at that specific moment to kind of handle the situation. Yeah, he's immediately put into his place. It's a reality check. Like I said earlier, and again, the imagery, him just on his knees, and then at one point both his knees, right, submissive, really submissive, and then of course there's that one shot of her approaching Ramote, and I love that shot of her kind of approaching the camera itself. It's essentially in our faces as well, and you get that shot a little bit later on, around the time Ramote is going to collect Pokol from inside of the bones, from within the bones. Her eyes are just incredible, aren't they? Right? The way they're drawn, it elicits a really unique response. It really kind of plays into the whole, on one end, she's got this bubbly disposition, playful disposition, and that makes sense, given the fact that she is a cat chimera ant, right? I did mention the feline curiosity and all of that. That's certainly a big part of it. You see almost immediately, she wanted to be part of things, right? She's excited to be a part of things. At one point, she's kind of hopping out of there, right? After learning all of these things and putting these things into motion and, kind of immediately playing her part. And you cannot help but think about that curiosity, right? uh, it could be dangerous. It really could be dangerous. But, from another perspective, curiosity killed the cat, right? As far as, long-term connotations of this disposition. Let's see. Listen, at the end of the day, I'm so excited about this character. As you saw, I'm really quite excited for many different reasons. And listen, I think it's just the right time for the arrival of this type of Chimera ant, right? Because now, I had a few episodes, an extended run of episodes of these, I guess, grunt type Chimera ants, right? There's a few that certainly have quite the personality. You think of someone like maybe Yunjun, you think of someone like the koala Chimera ant who's still out there, who's still really quite unique in his thought process. And I'm really quite excited to get to that as well. Again, at some point, hopefully. And yeah, even though Ramot's fallen in line, right, and quite the, surprising development, there's still some really unique ones out there. Like I mentioned, the koala. So I do like that. And it'll be interesting to see how they react to someone like Neferpitou, right? See, one thing's for sure. I think, yeah, her arrival is about to kind of make a lot of these ants rethink a lot of their thought process, right? Maybe not fall in line to the extent that Ramo just completely devotes himself as like a, I don't know, not a brainless, ant in the structure of it all. But again, like I said, blissful, acceptance of his role in all of this, that this is it. I don't have to think beyond this. This is my job to serve, this royal guard. And then, of course, beyond that, the queen, the king. That's it. That's all I have to think about, right? That is my life. I was born into this position, and I should never again think about these crazy notions, right? Of trying to be more than the things I was born into. Again, it's a bit of a running theme in this anime, being born into quite a tricky situation, being born into a nearly, impossible situation for many of these characters, and how they kind of handle it, how they kind of deal with it, how they move on in the world, how being born into a really specific situation kind of shapes their trajectories. You think of, people like Gyro, you think of Benolt, you think of, someone like Krollo and the Phantom Troop, right? Coming from Meteor City. But yeah, I do feel that Neferpitou's arrival is just at the right time. It really is. I really finally kind of needed this level of Chimera ant, the type that can really truly kind of have a major say, a major impact on, the grand scheme of things. The principal cast have a say in their trajectory. Like I said, they've made it really quite clear at this point, and they double down as well through the narrator that yeah, she's about to play a massive role, a massive hand in how things are about to play out for Kite, Gon, and Killua, right? And like I said, I legitimately think if Gon and Killua go up against her, they're dead. Process of elimination, Kite. They've made it really quite clear that Kite knows, he can understand the level of these Chimera ants, and he'll, once they get close enough, he'll know the level of someone like Neferpitou, right? And that, I feel like that moment, that could be quite telling. Here you can kind of potentially get into some juicy speculation perhaps. I could see a possibility of, okay, it's inevitable that they are going to come across Neferpitou, or she's going to come across them, right? Soon enough. You could think, you could maybe think of a possibility of, Neferpitou recognizing, okay, someone like Kite, and even, Gon and Killua, of course, they're impressive, but, she'll also recognize that Kite is on a bit of a different level, right? Here you can possibly, through the arrival of someone like Neferpitou, you could possibly begin to see more of a selective process in terms of, the humans that they do kind of, select, the humans that they do choose to bring, for the queen, and, in that case, for the king specifically, right? The specific nutrition. So, there could be a possibility that maybe to save Gon and Killua, Kite could give himself up. But, that's just kind of assuming it could be as simple as that, right? It might not be as simple as that. It might just be a case of no, you don't really have an option here to give yourself up or anything, right? To save Gon and Killua, to give him a chance to get out of there. Someone like Neferpitou might not care about that, right? So yeah, it's that encounter, that imminent encounter, it's giving me anxiety, man, because you just know, right? It's the feeling of immense dread that there's no chance at this point. It really truly feels like there's no chance that all three of them are going to get out of here, right? The likelihood of that is just slim to none. And listen, as disturbing as that scene is with Poco getting prodded, right? It's still not quite as shocking enough in the sense that, it's still not that major of a character. But imagine, for example, someone like Kite, imagine it cuts to that and it was Kite being probed in that manner. My God, I think I would have been just, I don't know, that absolutely just would have left me speechless. Something like that, that truly would have disturbed me, right? If it was a character of that level. And this right here is one of the points I had in the last episode's discussion. As established as they are, as impressive as they are, at the end of the day, in this really unique situation, the great unknown of the NGL, of the wild, of the Chimera ants, ultimately, Gon and Killua are a liability for someone like Kite. The arrival of Neferpitou in this episode makes me think that even more, right? And I think the possibility of Kite actually getting Gon and Killua to fight Neferpitou in any potential encounter or any imminent encounter is just zero. I just don't think he's going to ask them to fight, right? I think any possible encounter, any possible approach now, I think it's all going to be about trying to give Gon and Killua a chance to get out of there. I truly believe that. And that's all based on just how they've established Neferpitou. And this kind of reminds me of the point I was making a little bit earlier. Up until this point, you always felt that, okay, at the end of the day, Gon and Killua should be fine. This right here, right? And it's another indication of the stakes and just the threat at play at this point, just the level the story itself has gone into at this point, right? This is the real deal. This is real shit at this point. This is the first time in the anime I truly feel that Gon and Killua cannot get themselves out of this situation if they were to actually engage someone like Neferpitou. I think if they engage, they die. And of course, like I said, Gon and Killua are not the types of characters that you can kill off at episode 84. It's just exceedingly unlikely. So of course, the other option, right, is for them to get out of there. And, they've been hinting at it as well through, again, Killua, right? Understanding that, okay, they might be a little bit out of their depth at this point. Yeah, so like I said, how long before Neferpitou comes across them? 1 episode, 2 episodes max. 2 episodes max. And that's just insane to think about. And the madness, the absolute bedlam that, it's going to cause. And, I've touched up on it a few times, the arrival of Neferpitou and the connotations of it, it actually makes things really quite fascinating as well at this point in terms of power scaling, right? They've touched upon the idea now of people like Netero or, people from the Hunter Association, right? This team that's going to show up, right? How exactly are they going to stack up against someone like Neferpitou? And then, of course, beyond Neferpitou, the other royal guards, and then the king. I mean, at this point, the one thing that's really quite clear is that the king is about to be on a level that is going to be perhaps beyond anyone, right? And that makes a lot of sense. The king, this is the king of the Chimera ants, right? Of that structure, of that hierarchy. So I'm expecting that character to be perhaps the most powerful being in the world of this anime by the time he does show up, right? Now, again, that being said, it doesn't mean that no one stands a chance or anything, or no one's going to stand a chance. Nen is really quite fascinating, right? Nen on Nen battles are really quite fascinating. And the one thing they've made really quite clear is that, styles make fights, right? Nen styles, in this case, make fights. So yeah, I certainly expect the king to be this almighty being, but there's going to be all kinds of really unique approaches that these people are going to have to take, right? And they've even alluded to final solutions, right? The aftermath, the fallout, and all of that, and how it might fall onto the Hunter Association, right? I mean, those leaders at the round table, they're certainly kind of passed that on to the Hunter Association, right? And I kind of brought this up during the episode, but yeah, is it possible that Kite actually felt that? Like he felt the arrival of Neferpitou? Because at no point does it specify that all of these things are happening in a linear manner or in a linear fashion, right? A lot of these things could be happening at the same time, so it's possible. At the same time, that scythe attack is about to take place, and of course, he's getting this unshakable feeling of anxiety, right? That he's just missing something. Could this be it? Did he feel the arrival of this being? And I also kind of get a confirmation on the clothing component of all of this. The Chimera ants having these really unique outfits and all of that. Yeah, you see Neferpitou is actually born with that really preppy outfit. But yeah, I really feel that it's a phenomenal character introduction. And I took to this character almost immediately. There's something so fascinating about Neferpitou. Just that nature, that playful and bubbly almost, and almost disarming nature. It's all by design. It's the character itself and the design itself is cute by nature as well, right? Like I said, those cat mannerisms had me giggling and cackling. Usually it's naruhodo, right? This time she goes naruhodo. So of course there's a bit of the playful side. There's already quite a personality that's on display here, or on showcase rather. But then, of course, there's a side of you that's always kind of like, oh my God, that this person I'm looking at on screen right now, this immense screen presence, this person I'm looking at, they're probably capable of some insane shit, right? Like I can completely picture, Neferpitou just kind of executing, high-ranking Chimera ants in a really nonchalant manner and just kind of moving on almost immediately, right? Executing for a reason, of course, and not just randomly, but as a hypothetical. It's that type of disposition. Let me kind of quickly take care of this little problem, and then let me just kind of get back to base level. And again, the one thing they've really established is that she's really quite excited to be around, really quite excited to learn, and learn about all kinds of things, right? Again, like I said, it's just day one, and so much has been established, so much has been accomplished for the Chimera ants, right? Just through her arrival and the things that put into motion and the things that are made possible because of her arrival, right? And her presence alone. But yeah, to sign off, Poco, my God. It's kind of insane to even think back to the Hunter exam arc, Ponzu and Poco, but Poco a bit more because he got much more screen time, and I got to, kind of be there with him in the final phase of the exam as well. Right. And then, of course, they had that lovely goodbye. He looked up something on his laptop for them. Not just something. He looked up Jing, freaks. Yeah, you just never think that, this is how I might get to see him again. This is how I might get to see him go out in such a degrading manner, in such a disturbing manner, right? To be controlled in that manner. And yeah, sometimes some things truly are worse than death. And, that was Poco's fate. And yeah, now he's been fed to the queen. So yeah, that's about to go right into the buildup of the king, perhaps possibly alongside someone like Gyro as well, right? But, again, it's still not clear how things kind of played out for Gyro. They're kind of almost choosing to sidestep that. There's no mention of it at all. Yeah, it's a bit strange after that, really, really significant backstory. So let's see, maybe give it a few more episodes, because at this point, it feels like I'm not really getting any more new Chimera ants, of that level. And by that level, I mean people that are below the Royal Guards. It feels like the next ones I might get to see are the other two Royal Guard members. And then beyond that, the king. So yeah, it is beginning to hint towards him being a part of the king's buildup, right? Yeah, but yeah, I think that's a good point to sign off, folks. If you enjoyed that, consider dropping a like, consider dropping some comments, give me your thoughts. If you are interested in full opacity or, you know, timer-based full length, of course, or even early access to the next few episodes right now, consider checking out the Patreon page and, you know, potentially supporting the channel in the process. The links are in the description and the pinned comment. Also links to social media if that's your thing. Right then, thank you so much for joining me, folks, and thank you for your time, because time is precious. It really is. And I do hope to see you again soon for the next one. Until then, take it easy.